If you'd like to find the nearest part in the workspace while you're running around, or the nearest enemy, keep watching and I'll show you exactly how to do it. Hi everybody and welcome to Roblox Snippets. Today we'll be looking at finding the nearest part or humanoid to us in the workspace using magnitude. Now if you've never heard of magnitude basically lets us work out or is a simpler way of working out the distance between two objects, and we can update that in real time to let us know if something is close to us or within a distance where we want to do something with it. So to get started, we'll come up to and create a part in our workspace here. Now in the demo I had multiple parts, but one part will be fine. And if you like, you can come down and just make that a bit bigger. So we might make this 5 by 5 by 5, and we'll move it up so that it's level. And let's change its color to something else. I don't know, let's go with a blue. And last thing, we'll just make it anchored as well. Alright, so this is our part that we're going to focus on to work out if our player is getting close to this. Now we'll do this in a local script, so if you come down to our starter player, and we'll put this in our starter player scripts, and we'll do it in a local script. So click on the plus and add a local script, and we'll change the name of this to find part. Alright, I'll get rid of our hello world and we're good to go. Right, now we're going to be comparing where our character is to where the part is that we want to find in this particular script. So we'll create a variable for the player's service, which will be game get service and players. And right below this, we're also going to make use of the run service, because we're going to run this every frame to keep updating and let us know what the distance is between the two. So rs for run service equals game get service run service. Now we'll get our player. So player with a small p equals players dot local player, and from that local player we can get our character. So a local character will equal player dot character. So, whoops. So this will, if the character is there, we'll load it straight in, or because it's a local script and it might take a few seconds or microseconds to load, we add player dot character added, and then a colon at the end and a wait, and that will help ensure that the character is loaded in before we try to carry on and not give us errors, hopefully. Right, we'll create one more variable here called studs away, and we'll put this in at, let's say, 20 for a start. So this is the distance in studs that we're going to trigger the code and let us know if we are that distance or less away from the part that we're looking at. So obviously you can change this to suit your own needs. Right below this we'll create a function, so a local function, and we'll say check target. So this will run regularly to check whether something is close enough to us, and we'll do that by using our run service dot stepped. And if you have a look, this runs every frame. So if your game is running at 30 frames a second, then this will run 30 frames or 30 times every second. Alright, so connect and update, check target. Right, so no parentheses, just the name up here. Right, now we've got this, let's come inside of our function and look at how we might do this. So the first thing is that in our workspace, we've only got one part. However, we really want to perhaps, let's say these were enemies or buttons or something that you wanted to keep a track of. The best way to do that if I bring this up over here, is to keep these inside of a folder that we can grab easily. So in our workspace, come up and click on plus and choose folder, and we'll change the name, we can call it parts folder for now. And then we can take our part that we created and drag it inside of this folder. Now this could contain one or hundreds of these parts in here that we want to look at. So in actual fact, if you wanted to duplicate this one now, so a couple of times, and just sort of move it over here, and we'll duplicate this one and move it over there somewhere. Alright, 2 or 3 is good. And now we've got these inside of this parts folder. So we'll create a variable here to get all of those parts. So a local all parts will be equal to game.workspace.parts folder, and we're going to get children. And that will get us all of the parts inside that folder. So once we have those, we want to loop through all of those to do some checks. So we can say for I, each part, in pairs, all parts, and then do. So now we're looping through. We're going to apply any code will be applied to each part as it cycles through those in the folder. So in this case it will be 3. So each one will have this code applied to it. So local distance, that's what we want to find out. We want to find the distance between our character and one of these parts in here. The way we do that is to say equals and open our set of brackets, and we're going to firstly put in our character dot primary part dot position, and then we're going to subtract from that each part dot position, and then just move outside the brackets and put a dot and type magnitude. Right, and I'll just bring that back in here so you can see the whole thing. So basically what this does is takes their vector 3 positions, and it will return back to us a single number after it does this calculation rather than a vector 3 that will get less the closer these two items get together. And because of that, we can make use of a conditional statement to check by saying if, and I'll just zoom back in there again a little bit, if the distance is less than or equal to studs away, which is this up here, okay, then we can do something inside of here. And what we'll do is we'll change the material of the part, like I did in the demo, to make it go a neon color. So each part dot material equals enum dot material, and we'll change it to be neon. And right below this we'll say else. Now because if we just change these, they won't change back. So what we'll do is we'll come in here, we'll just put it back to the original material that was there. So these are by default plastic, so we'll just say each material equals enum dot material dot plastic, and that will return it back to the state it was in if we get far away from it. So with that we can give this a test. So come up and click on File and Save, and let's play. Okay, I'm all loaded in. So now if I run over near one of these, you'll see that our blue cube has gone neon, and then if I run back away, it goes back to plastic. And over here, neon, and then if I run over here, now I'm close to both of these, so they're both neon, but if I move a bit further away, only this one. So you can see that our code is working in terms of making these light up. Now, if you didn't want 2 at a time to light up like that, you could reduce the distance. So you could change this to be 10 studs. And if we were to run this again, alright, you'll notice I need to get a little bit closer to here, and if I run between here, it's making it a little bit more refined, alright, but it works very quickly and very well. Alright, so that's how to find the nearest part. We'll just stop that there, and now we will look at how to look for humanoids instead of just parts. So now, because we're going to look for humanoids, we will get rid of our parts here. So just if you don't want to delete them, just click your parts folder and drag it down into replicated storage, so it's out of our workspace. And we also just with our find part down here, our script, right click on it and choose disable scripts, and that will simply turn it off while we're working with our next script. So in the workspace, if we come up to the home tab, let's add a couple of humanoids. Now I'm going to add some different ones in so that you can see how they work. Up the top here, come up to avatar to begin with, and then over to rig builder, and we'll insert a copy of your own avatar. So you'll find the button my avatar, so go ahead and click on that to add it into the workspace. Alright, and if we just expand this out and find the humanoid inside of the rig, as it's called here, and I'll open up my properties window, we want to come down and we'll change, actually we can just probably click on the name of the character here, and we'll just change this to enemy number 1. Alright, and I'll rotate him around. So I just rotated him then by using Control or Command R on your keyboard just to spin him around so he's facing us. Right, and to add something else, let's add in rig builder again, and this time I'll just choose a block rig, so just a standard dummy. Right, and we can spin him around as well. And lastly, we'll come over and add in, if we come up to the home tab and come to toolbox, in marketplace under models, let's search for a zombie. And if you're going to choose a zombie, see this little sign here, alright, you can, that means that it's a safe sort of model with scripts in it that you can insert. Now we're not going to use the scripts, so I will insert this anyway into the workspace, and we'll just move him up. And if we expand our zombie out, you'll find that it has a script inside of it. So you can either right click and disable that script, alright, or you can delete it out. If you just disable it, it won't run. And by all means open it up and have a look at it later to see how it works and run your game with it. As I said, with that little shielded item, you'll see it's made by Roblox, so you can run those safely. Those made by people with scripts in them, like this one here made by someone else, unless you know what that script is doing, I would advise that you don't run that script, or you check the entire model out before you run it, as it can infect your computer with annoying viruses. So just be aware of that. Alright, so now we've got 3 different kinds of humanoids in here, and we're going to just move this one over here a little bit, and we'll move our enemy number 1 back over here. Now there's a couple of things that you need to be aware of. With our avatar, the one that we imported, if you right click and you come down to its humanoid part and look in the properties down here, so scroll down, click on the name up the top of the model, and then scroll down. We want to look for this primary part. So you'll notice that primary part in here is humanoid root part for our avatar that we just brought in. Alright, so let's zip him up. Now let's have a look at our drooling zombie, and you'll notice it has no primary part. So you need to set that. and if we expand our drilling zombie and then find the humanoid root part, you want to click in the box here for primary part, and you'll get this little Lego appear on your cursor. Come up and then left click on its humanoid root part to set its primary part, as we'll use this in the code. And the other one to check is our rig over here, and it also has its humanoid root part set. So if you've got all those checked, then our code should work nicely. Now, as before, we'll come up and create a folder in the workspace. So click on plus and folder, and we'll call this one all enemies. Whoops. Enemies. And just highlight those and drag them inside of our folder for us to make use of. Alright, so now we can come down and we're going to add another local script to our player scripts, and we'll call this one find humanoids. Now keep the other disabled script open, as we might just copy a couple of things across. So the first part here, all of this up the top here, we can keep the same. So we can grab this whole block of code here and highlight it, and then Command or Control C to copy, or you can right click and copy. Then come over to your find humanoid script and right click and paste, or Command Control V. And right below this we'll create the same function. Now I don't want you to copy the function across because there are a few things that change, and if you don't get them all right, then this sort of doesn't work properly. But this part is still the same. So rs.stepped, and we connect our check target to get this running. So as I said, this part of the code is slightly different to the parts in that we're trying to find a humanoid, which is an enemy. So we're going to create a variable inside of our function called enemy, and we'll set it to nil. So each time this cycles through, using our step down here, enemy will be returned to nil, and then we'll decide whether we need to do anything only if there is an enemy. We'll get our all enemies, so a local all enemies will equal game.workspace.allEnemies, and instead of get children this time, we're going to use get descendants. So what get descendants does, if we have a quick look at our enemies, previously we had parts in here which were single items. However, these in here now have many parts, and the one that we want to get access to is this humanoid root part. So get descendants actually starts here and then says, okay, you want everything inside, and it will go in and grab every single item inside here and break them all up and put them in a table. So that's what that does. Right, we'll drop down a line, and what we want to do now is cycle through all of those individual items. So we'll say for underscore, which means for however many items there are, comma, each item, so we're looking at each item, in pairs, all enemies, and do. Now remember that the part that we're looking for is the primary part of our enemy, which, if we have a look, is our humanoid root part. So we can put a conditional statement in here to say if each item that we're looking at dot name equals, so 2 equals humanoid root part, then we can work with it. Because we'll know if this each item is a humanoid root part, it is attached to a character. So its parent will be the enemy. And once we know we're working with this, we can calculate the distance using this information. So local distance equals, and we'll put in our brackets, character dot primary part dot position, and minus, I'll just get rid of these windows, each item. Now remember, each item in this case, since we're inside this conditional statement, is the humanoid root part. So we can simply put each item dot position, and then move outside dot magnitude. And that is our whole line there. Okay, so it should look like that. Once we have that, then we can write our conditional statement. So if distance is less than or equal to studs away, then we know we've got an enemy, and we can change this variable up here. So we can say enemy now equals each item dot parent. And the parent of the humanoid root part will be the name of one of these enemies. Okay, so that's what this whole section does. Now if you look at this for loop here, where a line comes down to this end, if you click at the end there, just hit enter, and we'll write a conditional statement to say if enemy, then this will only run if this is not equal to nil. Okay, so nil won't return true, and if you ever write this like this, you could put here if enemy not equal to nil. However, this will work fine. So if there is an enemy that's been returned here, this code will run. And in this case, we'll simply print the enemy dot name, and then we'll add a task dot wait of 2 seconds, and then we'll destroy the enemy. So enemy colon destroy, and that is all we need to run the game. So let's come up and click on File and Save, and let's run. Alright, I'm all loaded in, and you'll see down the bottom here nothing is happening at the moment, but if I move over next to my rig, you'll see rig appears. So it was running through, and then after 2 seconds we destroyed that enemy, and he's gone now. So enemy has returned back to nil. And if I run over to the zombie, the same thing happens. So you could imagine that instead of just making them destroy, we may have a fight with that enemy, or perhaps it's a zombie and they chase you if you get too close to them. So that would run after me, and then they disappear. Okay, and that will continue to run, and if you were to spawn more enemies in, then that would continue to work. So I'll go ahead and stop that there. And that's how we find enemies. So I hope you got something out of that video, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos. If you found this video useful, subscribe now. For more information about my online courses, go to mrbrendanross.com.